The DMV. The one place on Earth where a stranger can ask to change their own birth date, register a horse, and blame Mercury for failing a parking test, all before lunch. Today, we're climbing inside the minds of America's most baffling license office customers to figure out what they were actually thinking, and what the clerks behind that counter quietly know that the rest of us don't. 1. Picture a woman at the counter, demanding a full refund on her brand new license. The reason? The photo made her look, quote, 10 years older and slightly possessed. Her fix was simple. Just use her filtered Instagram selfie instead. But that beauty mode glow that smooths your skin also erases the exact data points facial recognition software relies on. So no, the DMV can't run your life through a Snapchat filter. Your most important ID is supposed to look like the real, unedited you. 2. Here's one that defies basic logic. A man failed his road test for driving too slow, then called to complain that he was being punished for being safe. Except he was crawling at 15 miles per hour on a 45 zone, with a furious parade of cars stacked up behind him. Most people never learn this. Driving far below the flow of traffic is its own violation in nearly every state. Sometimes you aren't the careful one. Sometimes you're the rolling roadblock everyone is cursing at. 3. Would you ever ask a government office to lie for you about your height? One guy did. He demanded his license say 6'1" instead of the 5'8" they measured on the spot. When refused, he filed a discrimination complaint, insisting he was taller in spirit. But your license stats aren't a dating profile. They exist so a paramedic or officer can identify you in seconds during an emergency. And trust me, your spiritual height helps absolutely no one find you in a crowd. 4. A man built a vehicle out of, in his own words, mostly lawnmower parts, then left a blistering review when the DMV wouldn't make it street legal. Think about what's actually happening here. Every road-legal vehicle has to pass inspections for brakes, lighting, and structural integrity. His leaf blower-powered Frankenstein machine wasn't getting a plate, ever. The clerk wasn't being a tyrant. She was quietly preventing this man from becoming a very tragic local news headline by next Tuesday. 5. This one is pure comedy. A woman flunked her vision test, then demanded the staff simply print the eye chart in bigger letters so she could pass. No glasses, no exam, just bigger font. But the entire reason that test exists is because you need to read road signs from a distance while moving at speed. Think about it for a second. If you can't read a chart in a silent, well-lit room, the freeway at 65 miles per hour is the absolute worst place to discover that. 6. Ever wonder who actually approves vanity plates? Because a man learned the hard way that someone does. He swore his rejected plate was just his lucky numbers, but read in a mirror, it spelled out a spectacularly creative insult. States employ entire review teams who check requested plates for slang, hidden meanings, and reverse readings. They flip them upside down and backward. So that clever little code you think you secretly invented? A person whose whole job is catching it caught it before lunch. 7. Mercury was in retrograde, and according to one customer, that meant he couldn't be expected to parallel park under those cosmic conditions. He filed a complaint when the office refused to reschedule his test around planetary alignment. Now here's the boring truth no astrologer wants to admit. Parallel parking failures come down to one thing: not turning the wheel at the right reference point. The cosmos isn't sabotaging your bumper, my friend. You're missing depth perception, and that innocent curb are handling that just fine. 8. Imagine being the clerk who has to explain this. A man angrily reported his new license as defective because it wouldn't open his hotel room door. He genuinely slid it into the key slot and got nothing. The data encoded on a license carries only your state DMV record, not universal door codes. It's not a master key to America. The single door that little card unlocks is the legal right to operate a 2-ton machine. That's it. That's the whole magic trick. 9. Some people treat the license photo like a wedding shoot. One woman blinked, demanded a retake, blinked again, then a third time, escalating until she screamed that the camera itself was anti-her. Most offices allow 1 or 2 retakes before moving on, because 40 people are waiting behind you. Want the actual professional trick? Look slightly above the lens and exhale right before the click. Honestly, Half of all terrible license photos come from people tensing up like they're being booked into county jail. 10. A man filed a complaint claiming the DMV stole his weekend with a long Saturday line. His brilliant solution? A private VIP express lane for important people like him. Let me break the bad news gently. Government offices run on flat budgets and fixed staffing, not surge pricing for your ego. There is no fast pass for self-importance. The genuine hack is going midweek, mid-morning, mid-month. But announcing your VIP status to an exhausted clerk earns you precisely one thing: nothing. 11. This next one isn't really funny because a dangerous myth is at the center of it. A man demanded his organ donor status be removed, convinced doctors would let him die faster to harvest the goods. This rumor refuses to die, so let's kill it right here. Medical teams are legally and ethically bound to save your life first, and donor status isn't even checked until death is confirmed by separate physicians. One internet myth had this man terrified of a checkbox designed to save someone else's life. 12. I barely drive the thing, so why should I pay? That was the argument from a woman demanding a refund on her registration, threatening to escalate it all the way to the governor. So where does that fee actually go? Roads, signage, bridges, and infrastructure that exist whether you drive once a year or every single day. You're buying access to the entire system, not a gym membership you forgot to cancel. Those potholes you somehow never hit? Somebody's registration fee is the reason they got filled. 13. A mother screamed that the examiner had no right to fail her teenage son, then demanded the man be fired and the license handed over anyway. Here's what parents in that moment forget. Examiners follow a rigid, non-negotiable scorecard. Rolling through a stop sign, clipping a cone, or skipping a mirror check are all automatic deductions. The examiner isn't your kid's personal enemy. He's the very last barrier standing between an unprepared teenager and the rest of us sharing that road tomorrow. 14. How do you mail a license to wherever the universe decides? Because one man tried. He refused to list his address, calling the form's questions invasive, and wanted his card delivered by cosmic fate. The problem is, your address legally ties your license to a jurisdiction for taxes, courts, and emergencies. Without it, you simply don't exist in the system. And as charming as it sounds, the universe still does not operate a forwarding mailbox. The post office needs a real street and a zip code. 15. A man failed the written test and blamed it on trick questions designed to confuse honest people. So, which devious question broke him? What a red octagon means. That's a stop sign, the single most recognized road sign on the entire planet. Fun fact while we're here. Its shape is standardized worldwide so that even if snow buries the word, you still know exactly what to do. There was no trick lurking in that question. There was just a man who never opened the booklet. 16. A woman walked in demanding the DMV change her name, her gender marker, and her birth date all at once, with zero paperwork, purely on her word. When asked for documents, she accused the staff of not trusting women. But every official change requires legal proof: a court order, a birth certificate, a social security update. This isn't about distrust. It's the entire reason a total stranger can't stroll in, claim to be you, and walk out holding your legal identity in their hand. 17. Got a cute license plate frame from your favorite sports team? It might be quietly illegal. A man discovered this when his logo frame, which covered the edges of his plate, earned him a ticket, and he blamed the DMV for not warning him. Many states legally require the full plate visible, including the state name and registration sticker. Cameras and officers have to read every single character. So before you frame that plate, ask yourself, is the decoration worth explaining to a traffic cop? 18. At 42 years old, a woman demanded a senior discount on her renewal because she felt elderly that day. She filed a complaint when she was politely denied. Fees are tied to fixed laws, not how your lower back feels after sleeping wrong. There's no sliding scale for vibes. But here's a real fact worth knowing. Many states genuinely do offer reduced fees or longer renewal cycles for drivers over 65, sometimes paired with more frequent vision checks. Just not for one rough morning. 19. A man insisted on adding his dog as a co-owner of his vehicle so the dog could, and I am not making this up, build credit. Staff assumed it was a joke, It was not. He escalated to a manager. Vehicle titles require a legal person or entity with a verifiable identity and a tax number. Your golden retriever, glorious boy that he is, cannot hold a title or a credit score. There's also the small issue of him being physically unable to sign the transfer form. 20. A woman accused a self-service kiosk of judging her after it rejected her photo for a hat, then demanded the machine apologize to her. Spoiler, it did not. Kiosks reject head coverings because hats hide your hairline and facial structure, both critical for identity matching. The machine has no feelings and no opinion on your style. It just needs to see your whole face. Religious head coverings, by the way, are a documented exception, handled by an actual human rather than the unbothered robot. 21. Ignoring 8 months of renewal notices, then demanding the DMV backdate your registration to dodge the late fee? Bold strategy. One man tried exactly that and called the refusal unfair retroactive punishment. Those notices arrive by mail, email, and sometimes text, well ahead of time, for a reason. Backdating an official government record is fraud, full stop. That late fee was never a punishment for the DMV's mistake. It was the gentle shoulder tap he chose to snooze for 8 straight months. 22. A man showed up for his road test in a car with no working brakes, just the handbrake and, as he put it, faith. The examiner, sensibly attached to being alive, declined to get inside. Test vehicles must pass a quick safety check first. Working brakes, lights, horn, seatbelts, mirrors. No examiner on Earth is legally allowed to risk their life so you can prove you can pilot a death trap. Faith is a beautiful thing. Functioning hydraulic brakes are what actually stop 2 tons of steel. 23. Would your library card get you onto an airplane? A woman was certain it should, filing a complaint when the DMV refused it as valid ID for a real ID, arguing it had her name right on it. But real ID standards are federal and demand specific documents: a birth certificate, a social security card, proof of residency. A library card proves you can borrow a paperback. It does not prove your identity to the level the government requires before letting you board a flight. 24. I almost got it, so just round me up. That was the plea from a man whose parallel parking attempt left his car halfway up on the sidewalk. He genuinely wanted the examiner to bump his failing score. But driving tests aren't graded on effort or good vibes. There's no participation trophy for nearly flattening a pedestrian. The scoring is strict because almost parked in real life means a crushed bumper or worse. Close, as they say, only counts in horseshoes, not behind the wheel. 25. A man moved across state lines and demanded a brand new spotless license, absolutely furious that his suspension from back home followed him here. He assumed a fresh state meant a fresh start. Here's what he never knew. Nearly every state shares driving records through an interstate compact, so a suspension in one place blocks you in all the others too. You can't outrun a bad record by crossing a border. The system talks to itself and it has a very long memory. 26. A man demanded a refund because the DMV wasted his time by making him take a test he was sure he'd pass. He failed. Spectacularly. Then argued the failure proved the test was rigged against confident people. Let that logic marinate for a second. Confidence has never once stopped a car, parked a vehicle, or yielded at an intersection. The test measures what you can actually do, not how strongly you believe in yourself while doing it wrong at 30 miles per hour. 27. Here's a creative one. A woman attempted to title a golf cart as a luxury sports car, so she could, in her mind, raise its resale value. The clerk had to explain that vehicle classification is based on engine specs, weight, and safety features, not aspiration. Calling your golf cart a Ferrari on paper doesn't make it faster, safer, or worth a single dollar more. It just makes the title clerk quietly question every life decision that led to this exact moment. 28. A guy filed a complaint that his license expired without his permission. He genuinely believed the state needed his personal sign-off before the date on the card could pass. Here's how it really works. Expiration dates are fixed the moment your license is printed, no approval required, no negotiation. Time, shockingly, does not pause for your consent. The card told you exactly when it died. You just chose to treat that little date like a polite suggestion instead of a deadline. 29. One man insisted the eye exam discriminated against him because he sees better at night. He demanded the test be conducted in a dark room to prove it. The staff, understandably, did not turn off the lights. Daytime vision standards exist because the overwhelming majority of driving happens in daylight or under streetlights. Claiming nocturnal superpowers won't change the chart. And honestly, if your eyesight only works in total darkness, that's not a flex. That's a reason to never drive at all. 30. A woman demanded the DMV reprint her license because her zodiac sign wasn't listed on it. She felt the card was incomplete without it. Imagine an officer pulling that card and learning you're a Scorpio. Driver's licenses carry legally required identifiers: name, address, birth date, physical description. Your astrological sign is not among them and never will be. The card is a legal document, not a personality profile. The DMV politely declined to help her become more relatable to traffic cops. 31. Here's a question. Can a horse have a driver's license? Because one man was determined to find out, demanding the DMV issue documentation for his horse so it could legally pull a cart on the highway. Setting aside the obvious, licenses are issued to human operators, not animals, and horses are banned from most highways for everyone's safety. The clerk spent 20 minutes explaining traffic law to a man genuinely advocating for his horse's road rights. That clerk earned their entire paycheck that day. 32. A man returned to the office absolutely livid because his new license felt cheap and wasn't heavy enough to be official. He demanded a premium, weightier version. There is no deluxe license, no gold-plated tier, no executive edition. Every card in the state is printed on the exact same secure, tamper-resistant stock deliberately, so they're equally hard to counterfeit. The weight has nothing to do with legitimacy. But sure, let's invent a luxury license market for people who confuse heaviness with importance. 33. One woman complained that the DMV refused to let her bring her emotional support parrot into the road test. She insisted the bird kept her calm behind the wheel. Here's the safety reality. A loose, unsecured animal in a moving vehicle is a genuine hazard, capable of distracting a driver at the worst possible second. Examiners can't legally allow it. As soothing as a parrot on your shoulder might be, nobody wants to explain a crash caused by a bird screaming during a left turn. 34. A man demanded the state refund every registration fee he'd ever paid because he never personally used a highway he didn't drive on. Think about how taxes and shared infrastructure work for one moment. The roads you don't use carry the trucks delivering everything you buy. The bridges you skip carry the ambulance that might one day carry you. You're not paying for your specific tire tracks. You're paying into a system that quietly keeps the entire country physically moving. 35. Why does my license have an expiration date, but my social security number doesn't? That was a man's furious complaint, convinced it was a scam to charge him renewal fees forever. Actually, it's beautifully simple. Your photo, your address, and your vision change over the years, so the license has to be periodically updated to stay accurate. Your social security number is a permanent identifier that never changes. One describes who you are right now. The other just confirms you exist. 36. A woman tried to use a screenshot of her license, taken on her phone, as valid ID after losing the physical card. When the officer refused it, she filed a complaint against the DMV for making the rules too strict. A photo on a screen can be edited in seconds by anyone with a free app. The physical card carries holograms, microprint, and security features a screenshot simply can't replicate. The strictness isn't bureaucratic cruelty. It's the only thing standing between your identity and a counterfeiter. 37. One man demanded the DMV change his license number because he didn't like how it looked unlucky. He wanted something rounder, friendlier, with a few more sevens in it. License numbers are auto-generated by a secure state system tied directly to your record, not chosen from a menu like a phone case. There's no lucky number request form. The system assigns it, period. And if those digits genuinely affect your luck, I'd argue your problems run a little deeper than the DMV can fix. 38. A guy stormed in to complain that the road test route was too hard because it included a left turn at a busy intersection. He wanted a route with only right turns and empty streets. Here's the thing the test is actually checking. Real roads have left turns, traffic, merging, and pressure. If you can only drive where nothing is happening, you can't actually drive. The examiner isn't out to break you. He's confirming you can handle the world as it genuinely is. 39. A man flat out refused to be photographed for his license, convinced the camera, stole a piece of his soul. He insisted the state issue the card with no image on it at all. The clerk patiently explained that the photo is the single most important identity feature on the entire card. Without it, the document is legally useless for proving you're actually you. His soul, I'm fairly confident, survived the experience. The camera takes light and pixels, not pieces of you, no matter how the flash feels. 40. A woman demanded a discount on her renewal because the office didn't smell nice, and the experience was below her standards. She wanted compensation for the ambiance. Government offices aren't competing for a hospitality award, and there's no fragrance-based fee reduction anywhere in state law. You're paying for a legal document, not a spa day. But I'll give her credit for creativity. In all my years, the lobby smelled bad is a genuinely fresh angle on demanding free money. 41. One man demanded to register a classic car that had no visible VIN, insisting it was too old and too special for numbers. The clerk couldn't legally process it, and for very good reason. Every vehicle built since 1981 carries a unique 17-character VIN, the fingerprint used to track ownership, recalls, and theft. No VIN means no way to prove the car isn't stolen. A car without that number isn't a rare classic. To the system, it's basically a ghost. 42. A guy demanded the DMV mail him a new license overnight because he had a party that weekend and needed it to get into the club. He was furious the standard processing took a week or two. Licenses go through identity verification, secure printing, and quality checks before mailing, and that takes time for very good reasons. Rushing a security document for your Saturday night isn't on the menu. The DMV exists to keep roads safe, not to fast-track your weekend plans. 43. Why can't I just take the test on a video game? That was a teenager's complaint, genuinely arguing his racing game skills should count toward his license. Cute theory. But a controller doesn't simulate the weight of a real car, the consequences of a real crash, or the pressure of real pedestrians. In a game, you respawn. On the highway, you do not. The examiner wasn't impressed by his lap times, and frankly, neither am I. Those are very different skill sets. 44. A woman complained that the DMV refused to laminate her child's drawing onto the back of her license to make it more personal. She felt they were stifling self-expression. Licenses are secure documents with strict layout standards, and altering one in any way, including gluing on a child's artwork, actually voids it. As sweet as the gesture is, you can't customize federal-grade identification like a school binder. Save the macaroni art for the fridge, where it legally belongs and is genuinely appreciated. 45. One man demanded the DMV refund his test fee because he wasn't in the right headspace the day he failed. He wanted unlimited free retakes until he felt emotionally ready. Test fees cover the examiner's time, the vehicle, and the administrative process, every single attempt. There's no mood-based refund policy. Life, much like the road, doesn't pause until you're emotionally prepared. The intersection won't wait for your headspace, so the test, quite reasonably, doesn't either. 46. A guy insisted his license list his occupation as professional driver, even though he'd just barely passed his very first test. He felt it would command more respect. Driver's licenses don't list occupations at all, professional or otherwise. The card confirms you're legally allowed to drive, not how impressive you are at it. Passing the basic test makes you a licensed driver, not a professional. And declaring yourself a pro on day one is a bold move I genuinely cannot recommend on the highway. 47. Ever heard someone argue that road signs are just suggestions? One woman did, complaining she failed her test for technically rolling through a stop sign she considered optional. A stop sign is a legal command, not gentle advice from the city. A rolling stop is one of the most common reasons people fail, because it's also one of the most common causes of intersection crashes. The line between stopped and almost stopped is exactly where a lot of accidents happen. 48. A man demanded the DMV update his license to reflect that he'd lost weight since the photo. He felt the old image was now false advertising. Licenses are renewed on a fixed schedule, not every time your body changes. A photo is a snapshot of one moment, not a live feed of your fitness journey. The card stays valid until it expires, gym progress or not. And honestly, if a slightly heavier photo is your biggest complaint, you're doing better than most of us. 49. One woman filed a complaint that the parallel parking test was outdated because she planned to only ever use valet parking. She demanded an exemption. Here's the flaw in that plan. Licenses don't come with a guarantee that a valet will always be standing by. The test covers skills you might need anywhere, anytime, especially in an emergency. Betting your entire driving future on the permanent availability of valet service is a confidence level I can only describe as deeply impressive. 50. Halfway point. And this one's a gem. A man demanded the DMV remove the weight field from his license entirely because it violated his privacy. Yet that physical description exists purely so emergency responders and officers can identify you quickly when it matters most. It's not gossip, it's a tool. And here's a quiet truth. The DMV almost never verifies that number anyway. So the privacy he was raging about, he had way more control over it than he realized. 51. A guy complained that his road test was unfair because it rained that day, and he only drives in good weather. He wanted a sunny day redo, but rain, fog, and bad conditions are exactly when driving skills matter most. The examiner needs to know you won't panic the second the sky opens up. Refusing to drive in anything but sunshine isn't caution, it's a liability. Weather doesn't check your calendar, and neither does the test that's preparing you for it. 52. One woman demanded her license be printed in a more flattering font because the standard text looked harsh and unfriendly. She felt the typeface didn't reflect her personality. State licenses use a single mandated, machine-readable font for security and scanning consistency. It's not a wedding invitation. There's no whimsical cursive option waiting in a drawer. The font is built to be read by scanners and officers, not to capture your warm, approachable vibe. Some battles are just not winnable, and this was one. 53. A man refused to renew his license at all, declaring he wasn't driving but merely traveling, so the rules supposedly didn't apply to him. He'd found this theory online and was completely certain it would hold up. It does not, and it never has. Courts have shot this argument down countless times because operating a vehicle on public roads legally requires a license, full stop. No clever wordplay rewrites traffic law. The only place traveling, not driving actually works is in the comment section. 54. Would you complain that your license photo made you look too trustworthy? Because a man did, claiming it made him an easy target for scammers and demanding a more intimidating shot. The DMV doesn't do mood photography, menacing or otherwise. Everyone gets the same neutral forward-facing image for identification purposes. There's no tough guy filter on the government camera. And if looking trustworthy in a photo is genuinely your top security concern, I suspect the scammers are the least of your worries. 55. A woman demanded the DMV delete her old license photo from existence because she'd had it taken on a bad hair day years ago and couldn't bear knowing it still existed in a database. Old records are retained for legal and identity verification reasons, and they cannot simply be erased on emotional request. That archive exists to protect you against fraud and confirm your history. As painful as the bad hair day was, that photo is doing important work you'll never see. 56. One man filed a complaint that the written test was too long at 30 questions and demanded a shorter version for busy people. Here's a perspective shift. 30 questions covering the rules that keep you and everyone around you alive is genuinely not a lot. The test isn't padded busy work. Every question maps to a situation you'll face on the road. If 30 multiple-choice questions feel like an unbearable burden, the actual responsibility of driving might be a much bigger ask. 57. A guy demanded the DMV reissue his plate because the random letters spelled something he found personally offensive. The kicker? It spelled a completely neutral, meaningless string, and the offense existed entirely in his own imagination. Standard plates are randomly generated and screened for genuinely problematic combinations. Reading a hidden insult into harmless letters isn't the state's problem to fix. Sometimes a random plate is just a random plate, and the only person decoding secret messages is you. 58. A man painted his license plate a custom matte black to match his car, then complained when he got pulled over and ticketed for it. He genuinely thought a plate was just decoration. Here's the legal reality. Altering, painting, or coding a plate so the characters or state name are harder to read is illegal in every state because cameras and officers have to scan it instantly. That plate isn't an accessory. It's a legal ID for your car, and tampering with it is a fast track to a fine. 59. A man demanded a disabled parking placard despite having zero mobility issues, arguing the convenient spots were wasted and he deserved one for being busy. Let's be very clear. Accessible parking requires verified medical documentation for a reason, and abusing it carries steep fines in every state. Those spots aren't a perk for the impatient. They're a genuine necessity for people who truly struggle to walk far. Faking that need isn't a clever shortcut. It's just stealing convenience from someone who has none. 60. A woman felt personally cheated when she learned her state license wasn't valid for driving worldwide. She'd assumed it worked everywhere on Earth. But a license is issued by a single state under its own laws, not by some global authority. For driving abroad, you need an international driving permit, an entirely separate document. The DMV can't hand you planet-wide driving rights from a county counter. That kind of power exists nowhere, no matter how firmly you plant your feet and demand it. 61. A guy filed a complaint that the DMV tricked him by not warning that his vision would be tested, even though it's listed in every guide, on the website, and on the sign hanging right above the counter. Some information simply cannot be made more available. The vision test has been standard for decades. Claiming surprise about it is like being shocked that a swimming pool contains water. The warning was everywhere. The only place it didn't reach was apparently his attention. 62. One woman demanded the DMV change her birth date because she didn't feel that old, and the real date depressed her. She wanted a younger year printed officially. Your birth date is a legally verified fact tied to your birth certificate, not a number you can negotiate based on your feelings about aging. Falsifying it is fraud, plain and simple. We all wish we could shave a few years off on paper. But the DMV is not a time machine, and denial isn't a valid document. 63. A man insisted his road test was invalid because the examiner didn't compliment his driving. He felt the silence meant bias against him. Examiners are trained to stay neutral and quiet, marking a scorecard without commentary, precisely so they don't influence or distract you. Silence isn't judgment, it's professionalism. The score speaks at the end, not the examiner during. Expecting applause for changing lanes correctly is a level of validation the DMV was simply never built to provide. 64. One man failed his road test for flatly refusing to buckle up, then complained that seatbelts were optional based on personal philosophy. So let's clear that up right now. A seatbelt isn't a philosophy, it's the law in nearly every state, and it's the single most effective tool for surviving a crash. Skipping it during a test is an instant, automatic fail for an obvious reason. Your personal philosophy is welcome everywhere except the moment it tries to override physics. 65. A woman demanded the DMV provide a redo button for her entire driving record, wiping every ticket and violation clean because she'd learned her lesson. Driving records are legal histories maintained for safety, insurance, and accountability, and they don't get erased on a promise to do better. Some violations age off over time through proper channels, but there's no magic reset. Your record is a story, and unfortunately, you don't get to delete the chapters you'd rather everyone forget. 66. One man complained that his license was racist against tall people because the photo cropped the top of his head slightly. He demanded a taller frame. The photo dimensions are fixed and standardized for every single person, regardless of height, because the system only needs your face for identification, not your full silhouette. A slightly cropped hairline isn't discrimination. it's geometry. And turning a standard photo crop into a civil rights grievance is, I'll admit, an ambitious use of everyone's afternoon. 67. A guy demanded the DMV install a drive-through window so he never has to leave his car. When told no, he filed a complaint about accessibility. Here's the irony. Identity verification, photos, signatures, and document checks genuinely require you to be present in person, not shouting through a car window, like ordering fast food. Some things can't be done from the driver's seat, and a man too attached to his car to walk inside might want to reconsider his entire relationship with driving. 68. One woman insisted the DMV refund her because she failed on a technicality. That technicality being she drove the wrong way down a one-way street during the test. Let's call that what it is. Driving against traffic on a one-way isn't a technicality. It's one of the most dangerous mistakes a driver can make. That's not a minor footnote. It's a head-on collision waiting to happen. Calling a near catastrophe a technicality is exactly why that test exists in the first place. 69. And we finish with a masterpiece. A man demanded the DMV issue him a license despite failing every single section of the test, arguing that everyone deserves a second chance. Here's the thing about driving. The road doesn't hand out participation trophies, and a license isn't a reward for trying. It's confirmation you can do it safely. Second chances are exactly what the retest is for. But until you can actually pass, the only thing standing between you and a disaster is that little word, no. Here's what I really want to know, and be honest in the comments. Forget the people in this video. What's the single dumbest thing you ever argued about at the DMV, the one you'd never admit to your own family? Drop it below, because somebody reading this did something worse, and we both want to see it. Hit that like button if any of these hit too close, and subscribe before your renewal notice does.